your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Moving on to the public forum. Is anyone here from the council, public that'd like to address the council on any item that's not on the agenda? I have one. Please state your name and address, please.
Mike Miller, 701 Dover Drive here in Valley. I'm not able to stay the whole night tonight, so I just wanted to bring this up. I know with all the developments going on, Councilmember Firstater is always asking, who's paying for this, and it always goes back to it's going into specials. I noticed on the Valley Center Facebook page just on June 7th that now there's for Discover Exceptional Homes in Prairie Lakes, offer multiple floor plans, styles, blah, blah, blah. But it also talks about 3 years of specials rebates. So I don't know if that's in the budget, where that comes from in the budget. I know you guys are in the budget process. But, to come to the meetings and have a council member ask, hey, where's this money coming from? And to be told it's being rolled into the specials, and then later down the road it's being rebated. Really, it's the taxpayers that are paying for those. So just wanted to voice that. So thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll close the public forum. Moving on to old business. PBS sponsorship. We have Victor here to, at our request.
Yes, Victor is here. He did start to drive up last night, so I really appreciate him coming back up tonight to visit and give details and facts regarding the city sponsorship. So if you have questions for him, he's here to answer those questions. So I will turn it over to Victor Hogstrom. He's the president of KPTS, Kansas.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Bring you greetings from your favorite public television station, PBS Kansas. It is a station that is all about Kansas and the people of Kansas. A station about Valley Center, promoting Valley Center and those partner cities. Station that tells the stories of the people, the places, and interesting things about Kansas. I know that there's been some talk lately in the news, and there was a resolution, executive order, as you say, that was issued to eliminate federal funding for public broadcasting, saying that we're biased. But there's nothing that PBS Kansas has done to say we're biased in our local programs. We produce programs like Kansas from Above. You couldn't be biased with that. Historic buildings of Kansas, great women of Kansas, ghost towns of Kansas, the Pieway, Kansas style, and many other documentaries that people seem to enjoy, around which they call in their pledges and their support for the station. Then we have the local programs, Kansas Week, which deals with legislative matters of Topeka and political issues within the local communities. We have Positively Kansas. You couldn't be biased with the word Positively Kansas. We have Hattiesburg Spiegel, one of the Positively Kansas, Hattiesburg Spiegel, one of the two of the highest rated locally produced and broadcast programs. Then we have One-on-One, the interview that I do with the interesting personalities of Kansas. Inside the Cover, a book review program, Empowering Seniors, and a new one we've just added, See, Taste, Do, where we go to different cities around Kansas finding out what are the best things to see, the best things to do, and the best foods to eat. Eat, taste, do. And when you look at the partnership that we have, I think if you want to be open-minded about it, you will give PBS and PBS Kansas a lot of credit because, you are one of the original partners in this partnership when it started several years ago. And I have seen some growth in Valley Center. Real growth, results. Because one of our responsibilities is that we're committed to our partner cities. We promote them. The mayor is on quite regularly talking about Valley Center. You also have the opportunity to see a station ID with Valley Center, with the slogan. Then you have the 30-second spots that we run about Valley Center. But we've gone beyond that. If you were watching PBS Kansas recently, you would have seen a documentary called Kansas from Above, Cities and Towns. And Valley Center was prominently featured. That was about 10 minutes long, that segment. And so these are the things. And so the partnership that we're offering has come a long way and been for a while. The value of it is over $90,000. Television is pretty expensive, but we're not asking our partner cities to pay for this. We're asking you to just simply make a contribution in the amount that is proposed in the contract, because every bit helps the station. We have raised 74% of our budget locally. And if the federal funding were to go away, and I hope it doesn't, we will have to raise 98% of our funding locally. That would be a tough task. Public television is so valuable. Children watch and enjoy and learn from the programs. And when they go to school for the first time, they are among the smartest. Then we have the how-to programs that teach you, me, and others how to do things, how to cook, do carpentry, repair things. Then we have the wonderful documentaries, Nova, Nature, and all of these great programs that we offer, because our mission at PBS Kansas is to enrich our community with quality arts, cultural and educational programs and services that contribute to lifelong learning. And that's the purpose of your public television station, a valuable instrument that any community should be proud of. I'll tell you a quick story. Bunker Hill, way out west, they have a public TV station. And the reason it happened is because they tried to hire a doctor many, many years ago. The doctor's wife and the kids were in the hotel waiting for the doctor to return from meeting the folks from the interview. And the wife asked the folks in Bunker Hill, do you have a public TV station? The answer was no. And the decision was no, we're not coming. Then from that point on, I made it a business to get a public television station because of the educational value, the cultural value, the entertainment value, the music, the drama, the dance. There's something for everybody in public television. And so we have appreciated your support over the years and pray that you continue it because it is quite valuable for the Valley Center. We were asking $5,000, but I got a request for reduced amounts. One was $43.70. I don't see there's no significant difference there. If you could stick with $5,000, it would be very helpful. Because for us, every drop of water makes a mighty ocean. So please ask any questions that you may have, and I'll be happy to answer. saw the fact sheet. You know, it's right up there on the screen too. The station reaches 400,000 homes.
I have a question for you. I wasn't part of city council last year, so forgive me for not knowing this, but we donated last year the around $5,000. And what we were told by Brent our last meeting was that we didn't take advantage of the options that you guys had offered. Like we didn't do the, I think the Positively Kansas with Sierra Scott. Is that right? Or are you?
It was because I remember us doing 2 stories. That's what we offered. And one of them I recall very well was on the opening of your new athletic center.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the second, the last one we did. There was one prior to that. You don't have to call us to do it, and when we hear about it, we come and do it.
Yeah.
And then the station IDs, I mean, all the time, Valley said, which organization or community would not want to have its name in public domain for recognition? The viewers of public broadcasting are the folks you want to really do business with. They can build houses, they can invest. That's one of the offerings you can make.
So even though we didn't take advantage of all the services, we still had those other, like the 30-second promotional spots and all of that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I sent Brent a report on that too. 30-second spots, you had 2 per day. 365 days of the year. The mayor spot, I put in the calendar because there were so many. That's how you're saying yourself, right, Mayor?
I've seen it a few times, yeah.
2 times, yeah. No, I mean, it's a very positive thing. And the $5,000 for the value, I mean, for television, we appreciate it, but it's not our goal to charge, and we're charging for the services we provide. We'd be talking about a whole lot more. Because this package right here is at over $90,000.
Any other questions? Tina?
I appreciate the demographic sheet you gave us and the information about the other cities. But I meet with the other cities, and Jet does too. We're all invited to meet with them every other month. And I can say that the ones who do support PBS are proud of it and talk about it. I wish we had a lot of money in the budget that we could give you, but we don't. But I hope we can find some money for it.
Really appreciate your support.
Amy?
Me again. As she said, our budget is very limited this year, and the goal of the budget is the economic development. And we're building a lot of houses around town, and we want to bring in more families. And I think the thing that concerns me is the age demographics. Is it really? I think 83% is 65 and older, which is wonderful. But if we're looking to bring families into Valley Center, that's probably not our target audience. And if we have limited funds and that's not our target audience, then I don't support a substantial donation. I totally understand where you're coming from, and I understand you need the donations, but money's tight with our budget as well.
I understand the tightness of budgets, but when you consider $5,000 compared to the package we're offering you, that we've offered you over the years, the donation is appreciated, but it doesn't become happy.
Yeah.
Television is very expensive. Yeah. But we're not asking you to bid for once.
Okay, Matt has a question.
I know the meeting before I had said no billboard, no PBS. Then Dale kind of said comment that made me think a little bit about just jerking the Band-Aid off and giving nothing. So I would be all right giving the 2742 this year. with no guarantees next year. That's how I feel.
Make a
Ron?
motion.
I make a motion to, oh, let
We
me
got
scroll
one
down.
question yet.
Oh.
Ron?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank you for coming out. And I appreciate what you guys do for veterans, dinners and what have you, and programs. But I do have a question here that I noticed that you gave a sheet of. You list all the benefits of this election for $5,000. You had in here that instead of offering two special deals, you could offer only one. I was trying to think where I see
That's,
47,
that. Here
30.
it is, yeah. $4,300 EBS off, same package as specified. With the proposed contract featuring one convenience store about the city, Valley Center. Is this 3 minutes to 5 minutes?
right, that's the one.
That's the one.
The news package, feature package.
I'll defer to Councilman Sam. He has a motion.
And I just want to remind you that a lot of the contract details were in last meeting's agenda that specify all the things that he refers to. That is $90,000. They're not specified in this proposal that's in the agenda. It includes those, but it's not listed separately. So just so you understand that.
I make a motion to approve city partnership contribution to PBS Kansas in the amount of $2,742.
A second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the package of 2742 PBS. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Thank you, Victor.
Get all the numbers.
And then on to item B, accepting the public dedication from High Point Estates, final plat. Kyle.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item was tabled at the last meeting so that you can have the opportunity to have our city attorney provide you an opinion on this, the city accepting the dedications for this plat. My understanding is you all have received a memo from our attorney regarding what the council's duty is for accepting those dedications. The plat was approved by planning and zoning, and it is coming before you again to accept the dedications for the road right-of-way and for utility easements. And I recommend approval, and I don't know if Barry has any additional comments or if you have any other questions regarding this item.
Any questions of council?
I don't have anything to add beyond what my memo said. If we were to not accept the public dedications, that's the only thing as I see it, that you could reject. We would have to give notice to the landowner as to why it doesn't meet our requirements for that particular public dedication. And so if there's some concern about any of those public dedications, roadways, easements, things like that, I certainly think that would be the time to bring that up. If some councilman has a specific objection to one of those public easements or dedications.
Any questions, Barry? Get a motion to approve.
I have a quick question. If this didn't pass can they legally just do lot splits? How many lot splits can you do at a time?
They would not be able to do just lot splits. They would have to do the plating process
They
for
have to,
this.
okay.
Yep.
Ron,
Rod, make a motion to accept the public dedication of Rod.
have a second? Well, motion died because of no acceptance, so second. Stuff to what I do for you, and then move on. Right. Now I have to ask Barry.
Well, do we need to discuss it? Maybe Kyle and I can confer with the council members and see what specific complaints you have about some of this. Landowner may not accept that as a final resolution. But tonight, unless you have some specific things that you know you want to raise, that Kyle would advise you is some violation of a public easement or public dedication. I don't know what it would be, but if you think you have such a specific objection, that would be the time to at least state it. So if we're going to respond, that we can do that.
I'm gonna have you come to the mic and state your name and address.
Yeah.
We having audio problems out there?
So Barry's, I don't know if you guys can hear me now. No? Okay. It's on. Yeah, as Barry said, if you guys have any specific reasons for not accepting concerns with the public right-of-way, that we can go back and address that with the property owner. But the plat is approved. The Planning and Zoning Board approves the plats. The City Council just accepts the public dedications. And so the road currently goes across this person's property. And so part of this plat is cleaning up the road right of way, so the road's no longer on private property. And then also establishing public utility easements so that these parcels can be served by power. I believe they're currently served by water, and they will not be served by sewer, but it would be public right of way for those utilities to be serving these properties.
Can you put the map back up there? Or the easement? The public easement part of that.
Go down, Clint, to the next one. That one, and if you can zoom out, please. So this again,
The issue we're talking about is the public easement part,
correct,
which is just to get utilities through and some road.
correct,
It has nothing to do with the design of the plat because the plat's done.
correct.
So I don't really understand what the council's issue is either. So somebody's got to speak up. Because we're just dedicating easement. We're not questioning the lot size, lots, the amount. That's all been done. Signed, sealed, and delivered, basically. So I'm not understanding this council's decision either. Somebody's gonna have to give me some clarification myself. Ron?
Clarification I can't give you here. What I can ask is it the wording of the recommendation, or you want to be specific to the point? Because all of this is saying is acceptance of public dedication of 5 feet. state subdivision, period. We have to point out something specifically, or
Yeah, you have to identify what problems or issue you have with the road right-of-way easement or the utility easements. For instance, if you think the roadway is too narrow, you can do that, I suppose. If you want the easements at a different location, you might object to that or suggest that should be relocated. But if they meet our code requirements, I don't see how we can object to the road right-of-way dedication if that's what we need. Nor do I see how we can object to the utility easements if they're in the place that they're supposed to be under our zoning regulations. But again, I defer to Cal. He knows the specifics a little better than I do. But my thought is if it's within our code requirements that the council adopted, the zoning regulations, then, it's within our regulations. It's that simple. If not, then we need to state what's not in compliance.
well then, what I'd like to do is take and withdraw the motion and instead table the action for the next meeting where we can have the other 4 members of the council here to find out exactly what they want. Because for the 4 of us to say yes and they turn around and come back and say, well, we didn't say that. I'm trying to avoid that as much as possible. I'd recommend we withdraw.
I think Councilmember Kerstetter brought this up at the last meeting as to the plat as approved by planning and zoning meets all of the regulations and the codes, but it doesn't really meet the needs of the neighborhood.
Well,
And I know this is not up to planning and zoning, but maybe it should be. Maybe we need to look at expanding their responsibilities or ours. I don't know who should take this responsibility, but I think we need to do something to keep the city cohesive and aesthetically pleasant.
well, you have the authority to amend zoning regulations. I mean, those don't have to be set in concrete forever. You have the ability to amend the zoning regulations. You'd have to basically announce that you're going to consider amendments, put out a public notice that would probably include the potential amendments that you'd like to make, then have a public hearing on that. And you can amend zoning regulations to change what they specifically say now. But that's not the regulation. That's before the petitioning landowner. We have regulations now that Kyle and I believe meet our requirements. But again, if we're going to go back and tell them this does not meet the requirements, we need to say why. And I don't know what we're going to say, but maybe Councilman Roberts' idea is okay that we just table it until the other 4 councilmen and see if they have the same view that the 4 of you may have.
Is the planning commission rules, isn't that set by state statute?
Yes, it is. I cited you the state statute that basically says, once the planning commission rules on it, that takes care of the planning process itself. And they're the final authority on that. All you can do as a council is look at those political reservations and see if they meet with your approval, because you have to accept them as public roadways and utility easements and things like that. But again, if you think those should not be accepted, we have to state why in the record why they don't meet our requirements.
Okay, it's been recommended by councilman that we just table this until the next meeting. I hate to do that. I hate to make that decision, but, there's 4 of us missing, and there was at least 2 of them that's missing had concerns. So I guess we need to find out what those concerns are before we act. So I apologize, but I think that's what we're gonna have to do.
I don't know, Barry, do they need to make a motion to table?
You wanna make a motion? To table.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make a motion to table to the next meeting. And, get the information from the other council members.
Second,
Have a motion and a second to accept, to table the acceptance of the public dedication of High Point Estates. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Okay, moving on to new business, resolution number 785-25. Arbor Valley Phase 2 drainage petition. Oh, I was expecting Kyle to get back up there.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Garth Herman with Gilmore and Bell, the city's bond council. I have before you tonight basically the next three items on the agenda related to resolution 785, 786, and 787-25 for the Arbor Valley Phase 2 drainage projects, paving projects, and water projects. The first one in front of you right now is the drainage project for Arbor Valley Phase 2. It was done at the request of the property owners in that subdivision. They requested that the city construct the drainage improvements to serve their 29 lots in that improvement district, and that they request that the city finance the cost of making those improvements. And then once the projects have been completed and the final costs are known, that those costs be specially assessed back against those property owners with 100% of those costs to be repaid from special assessments. So with that being said, I will pause for any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
Making motion to approve resolution 785-25, authorizing construction of financing drainage improvements to the Arbor Valley Phase 2 subdivision.
second,
Have a motion and a second to approve resolution 785-25. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Moving on to resolution 786-25. Arbor.
Yeah, very similar here. This is for the paving improvements to serve those same 29 lots in the subdivision. Once these have been constructed, final costs are known, they will be assessed back against those 29 lots in Arbor Valley as well.
Questions? Oh, Ron.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve. To the Arbor Valley Phase 2.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second to approve resolution 786-25. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign, motion carried.
Last but not least is the resolution related to the authorization of construction of water projects. This will also serve the same 29 lots in Arbor Valley, and the cost of this project is back against those properties.
Gina?
will this be under the rural water? It's or is it city
So,
water?
but I'll defer to city staff on that specifically.
They are served by city water.
Okay, thank you.
Make a motion to approve resolution 787-25, authorizing construction, financing, water improvement to the Arbor Valley Phase 2 subdivision.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve resolution 787-25. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Thank you. Moving on to professional service agreement, PEC, or excuse me, SEH.
I apologize. Samantha Garrett was supposed to be here last night to go over that and present it. She is unable to be here tonight because of the change in day and time. So if you have any questions, maybe someone else can help. I mean, it's a fairly standard agreement that when we're doing this. So most everyone has been through these agreements, so it's just an acceptance of the review process. So engineering contract.
Ron?
I've got a question. We haven't received any remarks or anything by the community for this. Okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion to accept the professional service agreement with SEH for the Harbor Valley Phase 2 development. The amount not to exceed $95,100 and authorize the mayor and city administrator to sign.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the professional service agreement with SEH. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify for raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Moving on to ordinance 1427-25.
Good evening again. This is one of two requests for annexations this evening. Clint, if you could scroll down, this land is located off of Interurban between 93rd the north and I guess it's technically what would be Fieldstone would be the first city street, I believe, to the south. But there's two separate tracts of land, so that's the reason for two separate ordinances. The petitioner is wanting to annex this into the city for housing. So I recommend approval for first reading.
Move to approve for first reading ordinance 1427-25 to annex approximately 30.494 acres along Interurban.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 1427-25 for first reading. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify for raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Moving on to item 1428-25.
All right, this is again second tract of land for the same person requesting annexation, and I recommend approval of first reading.
Move to approve first reading of ordinance 1428-25 to annex approximately 30.453 acres along Interurban.
Have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 1428-25. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify for raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Thank you, Kyle. Moving on to Valley Center budget, 2026 budget, first draft.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Tonight is the first draft budget presentation. Start off with valuation. Valuation is the total assessed value for all real and tangible property within the city limits. This includes residential, commercial, industrial, land, and utilities. What it does not include is any government buildings, schools, even the rec center, since it's city-owned, are not part of our valuation. Each class of asset is assessed at a different rate. Residential is taxed at 11.5%, commercial 25%, and utilities 33%. The total full year 26 estimated valuation for the city is $87,761,650, which is approximately $11.5 million more than it was last year. We had an absolutely astounding increase of 15.172% over last year's budget, estimated budget. How did we get to that 87,761? How did it jump up that high? We had $4.3 million in new construction. We had $1.25 million in property change. And we also do not have it on this page, but there is $1.3 million increase in the TIF district. And the remaining portion of that jump is existing houses and businesses that increased in value. That gives us a revenue neutral rate for the 2026 upcoming year at 47.592. These are the actual rates that we came in. We had budgeted or estimated at 76,200,000. We came in just about 35,000 over that. You can see how each of the different funds, general bond and interest, library employee benefits, emerging equipment, all came in the amount of tax dollars that was levied for each. And our delinquency rate, which is in arrears several years, came in at 2.83 for the 2023 tax year for the general fund. There's that TIF number that I showed you. That was part of our increase of 1.366. What's interesting about that, if you look at the very bottom notes, last year the TIF district was only assessed at $94,000, and it jumped up to $1.3666 million this year, which was an increase of almost $1.3 million. All of these numbers are provided by Kelly Arnold, the Sedgwick County Clerk, no later than June 15th of every year. I got these numbers last Thursday. So here's how we got to the 15.172. We estimated 76,200,000 last year. We came to that. They're now estimating 87,761,000 for the 2026 budget, which is a 15.172% increase. If you would choose to instead use the actual number that we came in at 2025, it would come in at a 15.119% increase. To give you I've got a few other cities just for comparison. Hayesville came in at 8%, 8.02. Park City came in at 14.98% increase. Each came in at 5.98%. Bel Air is the only city that was higher than us at 15.5%. Derby came in at 7.16%. And as a total for all of Sedgwick County, the increase was 9%. So we were ahead of the average, and Derby kind of brought that thing down a little bit. But overall, very, very strong increases across the board for almost all cities in Sedgwick County. So how do we actually get to the revenue neutral rate? We take last year's total property tax bill of $4.176 million. We divide that by the new estimated valuation that Kelly Arnold gave us of $87,761,000, and it creates a revenue neutral rate of 47.592. This is much lower than we've had in previous years. This number is usually around 50. The reason why it decreased so much is, again, that formula in there, that 87 million number jumped up so high. The higher that number goes, the smaller the revenue neutral rate will go. So historically, over time, we're probably going to see that increase back up closer to 50. But for this year, we have a very low revenue neutral rate based on that 15%. So the city is proposing a spending of 53.656 mils. How do we get to a mill? We take that $87,761,000 number, we divide it by 1,000. So 1 mil for the 2026 budget season will be $87,762. We then times that by our proposed mill levy rate of 53.656. We're proposing a 4.708958, $4,708,000 tax levy for the 2026 year. That is an increase of $528,883 over 2025 budget at $4. How do we actually calculate taxes for a homeowner? If a home is appraised at $200,000, we assess it at 11.5%. If it's a home, it's 25% for a business. That would be $23,000 in taxes. We take that by that city mill rate of 0.053656, which would come to $1,234.09 that that person would pay on taxes for the upcoming 2026 year. So here's kind of last year's mill levy rate actual compared to our estimate this year. As you can see, we've kind of moved some money around a little bit. We have decreased general fund by 0.977. Employee benefits, I'm going to talk about that at length here in a bit, but it jumped up quite a bit, and I'll explain why, but I'm going to do a little later in the presentation. Bond and interest decreased quite a bit down to 12.3, which is a 1.2 cut. Library, we just took a small little percent off, 0.126. Emergency equipment essentially stayed the same. So the good news is we are going to be operating on a lower number of mills this year, but based again on that increase, since the mill levy rate came down so much, we're going to be closer to 6 mills away from that number. While last year we were 4.466. So go back to 2025 mill levy rate. The net revenue neutral rate was 50.299. We budgeted 54.788, 4.489 away. This year, the revenue neutral rates decreased by a bit to 47.592. We're proposing 53.656, which is here's the good news for the average homeowner and business in Valley Center. We are decreasing our estimated mills that we need to operate the city this year by 1.2 mills. For every $100,000 that a homeowner has in assessed property value, they will pay Valley Center $13.80 per $100,000 less in taxes in 2026. For a business, since they're taxed at a higher rate, that would be $30 per $100,000. So I kind of made a quick little thing down the bottom for a $200,000, $400,000, and $600,000 house that based on whatever the county appraises your property or business at, you can kind of get an idea on how much less tax you will be paying Valley Center in the upcoming year in 2026. This is a 12-year levy comparison. I'll start on the left side. You can kind of just get an idea of where our bills were all the way back in 2014, where they are this year. As you can see, we have a decreasing trend. We're continuing to try to operate on less mills. It's all the way back up to the 55 plus some change in 2014, all the way down to 53.656 this year. This will be the first time ever, if you remove the library and you see the city portion, the City of Valley Center is going to operate on under a 50 mil. On the right side, it just shows the total valuation that comes from the city or the county treasurer. Even as recently as 2020, we were still getting very small growth rates under 6%. 5.6 is pretty strong, but below that's a little below side. The city was estimating 53 million as recently as the beginning of this decade. We are now up to 87, 761, 650 on the 15% increase that we got this year. What it's going to hold for the future, I'm not saying that we have another 15 coming up, but with the number of incredible developments that we have coming in, Harvest Place, Trails End, Prairie Lakes Addition 4, Arbor Valley, we just talked about phase 2. We are going to continue to see increased valuations in the years to come, and it's not going to take us long to get over $1 million in assessed valuation, probably just in a few years. This sheet is just a reminder of how we actually get the revenue sources for each of the funds I'm about to talk about. The only thing that's incorrect on this page is on emergency equipment. It says that we have a dedicated mill levy of exactly 1 mil per year. We've been operating a little less than that. This year, I'm asking for 0.962. So we don't put it exactly at 1 mil, but that's kind of the overall guidance over time. We're doing a little less than that this year. I'll go through some of the different funds now. This page is nothing more than the amount of new dollars that each fund is going to have in 2026 compared to 2025. So general fund will have $177,000 new money. Employee benefits, again, I'm going to talk about that shortly, has a very large jump. Bond and interest is actually decreased a little bit. The library, 1,574, emergency equipment, 11,122. I'll talk about some of the different funds right now. Library, we intentionally try to over budget expenditures. essentially whatever we spend for expenditures, as long as we budget for them, we get to transfer that fully to the library fund. Try to put a little bit of a cushion in there so that we have maximum dollars that can be transferred every year. Bond and interest. This account has had very large reserves over the last decade, which has given us a lot of flexibility with all the different housing projects that we have and paying for those. We started this year with greatly decreased reserves in this account at $238,254. What we're going to do this year, since we have several large bonds that are going to start up in the next 2 years, we're running this account a little leaner. As you can see, it's budgeted down from 2.487 last year to 2.342 this year. That's going to give us a positive $336,000 in fund balance that will help build our reserves back up in this account. We should end this year at a forecasted $576,000 in bond and interest reserves to help build that account back up from some of the recent inflation that's happened in the last couple of years. Employee benefits. I know this is a little bit unusual, but Brent and Christy and I have talked about this at length. We're actually going to report these numbers to you within 60 days. What has happened, and I'm kind of limited on the questions that I can answer on this due to HIPAA, that we've essentially had some higher than estimated claims over the last few years. And what happens is on June 30th every year, they close out the claims from the previous year. So in the last 60 days, I've had a very large amount of claims getting finalized for 2024. Now, we are in a group called Pareto that caps our expenses at $40,000 per person that's on our insurance plan. But what can happen is if a person hypothetically has a $100,000 surgery, they're going to bill Valley Center $100,000, and then they're going to mail us back a $60,000 credit to get back to that $40,000 cap limit. So we have a whole lot of claims coming in right now, and we have a whole lot of reimbursements coming in right now, and we just don't have a very good estimate on where this account should be at this time. Probably within 30 days when I do the next budget presentation, we should have this probably finalized with last year's numbers. But to put it real simply, we are pretty much out of reserves in this account, and we need to dedicate some additional mills to it. That is why it had a very large increase on the previous pages. We're pushing some more money into this account to pay for the recent medical claims that we've had, as well as to try to start building up those reserve funds again that right now are fully 100%. I know this is a little bit ambiguous on how I'm presenting this, but it's the best that we could do. If I tried to present numbers tonight, I would truly be guessing, because I just don't know how many 2024 claims are still going to come in over the next 2 weeks. Emergency equipment. Last year we budgeted $128,000. This year we're all the way down to $76,000. This is another account that we were way below historical levels on reserves. We do not have any major purchases planned for 2026, and we're looking at a positive $33,000 fund balance to help bring those reserves back up again. So here's the general fund revenue. 2 weeks ago, I presented to you the general fund expenses. As you can see, we're expected to have $2.957 million in taxes, license and permits, $913,000, charges for service $23,600, a little bit less than last year. Fines and forfeitures $151,000. Interest earnings, I've only got $68,000 in there, and I'll tell you why. Valley Center has over 30 accounts that have a positive reserve balance, and in the past, we've really focused on pushing money into kind of just a few accounts. What I'm doing now, with the additional interest that we're earning this year, we're on pace to have anywhere between about $240,000 to $300,000 in additional interest this year by switching over to People's Bank and Trust. That's the pace that we're heading toward. It's all going to depend on the 2 federal rate cuts, but right now, somewhere in that 240 to 300 additional revenue. What I'm doing is pushing that money to the funds that have the balances. If there's $100,000 in equipment reserves, we have that 4.4% fixed interest rate this year. I want equipment reserves to have $4,400 in interest. So we used to keep a lot of money in general fund. I'm running general fund a lot leaner now, so the general fund's not going to make as much interest. But we have other accounts, for instance, We're about to start the Seneca TIF project with the bridge and the roads that were approved in the last council. That account has $6 million waiting to go. It's going to literally earn over $250,000 in interest this year in that one account. That $250,000 can then go toward cost overruns for the project, or if the project stays on budget, we're going to take that $250,000 and just literally pay right principal right now, right off the bat, and long-term finance lesson. So really trying to push money to the proper accounts that it's supposed to be in. Here's the expenditures that we talked about 2 weeks ago. Let me go back to one thing real quick here. The other thing that a little bit is different here is you do see the other revenues is up, jumped from 68,000 forecasted this year to 235. The reason why is we have an account in there called reimbursed expenses, which is a bit of a dumping ground, but it's for anything that comes back to us for basically something that we paid out that the money's going to be returned to us. For instance, the $34,000 that I told you that the city hall is going to take on for the wreck insurance for this year, the $34,000 is going to come back to the other revenues account under reimbursed expenses. In addition, that's where the school district pays us back for the school resource offices that we put in schools. That is where Charlene's salary with senior services, we get part of that reimbursed into that account. That's the IMA refund that we get every year for we stay on top of our insurance budget. That goes in that account. It just continues to grow, and even right now, year to date, we're not even halfway through the year. I'm already at 107,000 in that account. It's just something we're using more. So, in case anybody's going to ask about that, that's why that has been aggressively jumped up to $235,018. All told, though, we're going to go from an estimated. Last year we came in at 4.3 million. This year we're projected at 4.52 million. The budget this year is very conservative, only 4.273. Back to expenditures. I showed you this page 2 weeks ago. This is how each of the different departments came out. As you can see, admin had a small increase, community development, another small increase. Community development is that $20,000 account that we're going to have dedicated for advertising. Senior services is a new department. Parks is flat this year. Excuse me. Police was flat. Fire, small increase, and legal and court department, small increase, with most of that going to be a one-time jump in the salary of the judges and the lawyers. Altogether, we're going to have a budgeted income projected at a $24,000 loss. I can tell you right now that we always try to budget conservatively. We most likely exceed that. Budgeted negative $106,000. We want base to greatly exceed that and turn that into a positive number. So I think the 2026 positive numbers.
That one is a question.
Yeah, if you could go back a little bit. On your list there, you have senior services. 110,808.
Okay.
And that's strictly for next year, right?
Yes.
Okay. And what was it declared?
We made that decision probably 90 to 120 days ago. We are starting to track the expenses separately in 2025. It's still going to all land underneath that. Essentially, it's still going to be under general funds, but essentially we're starting to already start pushing some expenses to senior services. But it will be January 1st, 2026 that will become a full department that we track.
Okay, you haven't received anything yet from the county.
I have not
For
seen
the
this.
senior.
I do not think we've received the reimbursement for Charlene yet for 2025. If we have, it has to be very recent. I haven't seen it, but I do not think it's shown.
Okay, I just want to note this. Today I was in a meeting with the Tri-County meeting. They're already presenting their budget. I didn't see anything collected at all. Senior services. With you later, we have time to
I don't believe that they want us to request that until about June. I have not seen anything from the county for next year's
You
budget.
haven't received anything.
No, I have not seen anything. It's usually in June, so it should be coming, but we have not seen anything that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
I'll double check with Charlene, but I am on most of the email chains now, Ron, so I haven't seen it.
Yeah, the only thing I'm bringing it up, or the only reason is that, Senior Service. That's the case, we're not gonna get below $40,000. Next week.
Like, it's a long-term goal, but what we're again trying to do, in fact, I even have a note, I kind of skipped by it on this sheet, but we're going to continue to try to dig deeper into these accounts, and even next year, these sheets are going to look a lot different. For instance, community development has $304,000 in expenditures. What you don't see is that community development brings in a lot of revenue. All those licenses and permits, electrical and all that. Next year, we're going to book that into community development as income and also show you the expense and kind of give you an idea. We've never done that before, so we're going to kind of do a very large undertaking toward the end of this year. Hopefully, we can continue to get that reimbursement from the county for senior services, but even if we don't, I think, especially with this new ban coming up, I think it's just going to continue to be something that makes sense to break that out, track those expenses differently, and see what revenues and expenses are coming in just for that department. So again, it's just something we can try. We're trying, and if we don't feel like it's a benefit to the city in any way, we can also take it back away here in a couple of years. So we're trying. But again, we're going to do a very large undertaking this year. You're going to see some of these revenues that right now are all looking into admin are going to be broken into other departments when I do this presentation. So here's really the only big fund increases that we have for the 2026 year. We're $34,615 for the city hall migration of servers to a cloud-hosted environment. Talking about that the last meeting. It's a one-time expense, but it should provide us $17,000 to $20,000 annual savings every year going forward. So obviously the ROI on that is very strong. Community development is going to have a separate advertising fund next year for $20,000, so that when we do requests like PBS tonight, we try to fund PBS, we're not taking it back away from his advertising department. I think everybody agrees that with all the housing developments coming in, he needs a separate advertising fund that cannot be essentially touched, and we're going to do that next year. So that's the second expense. $15,000 for new firefighting gear. And I know Neil's been getting some RFPs for the custodial cleaning. I've not seen him yet. His estimate was $70,000. I do not know. Chris, I know you saw that. Is it coming higher than vertical matter goal? So I still don't have any information on that yet, but that's what we've estimated. So there's really only $139,615 in new total requests for general fund for the upcoming year. Get into some of the other departments, special streets and highways. We budgeted $198,200 for this year, $200,000 for next year. It's really pretty flat. Expenditures, we're budgeting. This is a good example of how the expenditures are slightly down from last year. This account has strong reserves. Some of that interest money is helping book in there, so that we don't have to take it. We have left in a $100,000 CIP contribution in the event that sales tax revenues come in high. I put in the street sweepers paid off, so it shows $151,000 deficit right now. That's really a $51,000 deficit. We like to have that $100,000 was transferred in there if revenue comes in high for the year. Enterprise funds. This is simply how we collect money for the 4 enterprise funds. Most of them are just user fees or user charges. Water. Water is projected right now at $390,000, $820 deficit. I think probably, this is the one thing I think we're gonna probably need to adjust before my final presentation a month from now. There's gonna be a one-time transfer to $250,000 employee benefits. And I know you're wondering, why would we take water money and transfer it to employee benefits? Enterprise funds are kind of like O negative blood. They're the universal donors. They are allowed to transfer to any other fund in Valley Center. A lot of other funds cannot transfer to each other. So because the citizens have already paid for the water bill, we're allowed, the money's been collected, we can use it in these situations like right. We're going to take a one-time $250,000 transfer to shore up that account. The other thing that we have in there is $179,271 payment for a loan back truck. That also had a $50,000 per year line cleaning charge that will be going away once we get that truck received the budget for next year. The last one, the reason why I may need to adjust this number, excuse me, is simply because the amount of water that we've had in the last 5 weeks is a lot different than when I first put this 200,000 in there. We were still about 7 feet low in Cheney Lake, and the last I heard today was 1 foot 4 inches. So it has risen substantially. So I'm not sure I'm going to need this $200,000 in there. I probably will need some in there because by the end of 2026, a lot of the water treatment plant will be getting into the later stages of being built. We're going to have to run a lot of water through there just to test it. So I kind of want to leave some in there, but I might bring this $200,000 number down. I'll talk to you a little bit about it more. This one, again, was proposed in there about 6 weeks ago when our drought situation was much different. I removed the $50,000 line cleaning. Sewer pays 20%, back truck, water pays 75%. So we've got $59,757 for a down payment on the truck for the back truck. Even with that $60,000 expenditure, we still have a $22,000 positive fund balance for the budget for 2026. Stormwater, we're going to do a transfer bond and interest of $25,000 over the 2025 budget. That gives $1,000 expected fund balance. Solid waste, we did the annual 2% increase. We are expecting expenditures to be down this year, which would give us a very large positive $55,705 transfer to fund balance. As far as ARPA funds, the city received $1.1 million in ARPA funding from COVID. I just put this in here because all funds have been spent and that account has now been closed down with Valley Center. Everything has been expended. Potential next steps. If you guys, if council felt they needed to, we could have a potential special budget meeting on July 1st. But the next comprehensive budget meeting is scheduled for July 15th. On July 20th is my deadline to notify the county if the revenue neutral rate will be exceeded. July 29th could be a potential special budget meeting if we need it. August 5th, I'll do the CIP review. August 11th, we must publish in a paper notice to exceed the revenue neutral rate. September 2nd is the rate hearing, the public hearing of the 2026 budget, and most likely and possible the actual adoption of the 2026. September 19th is the last day that we can adopt the budget, and October 1st is the day for me to send the budget to Central County. I will stand for any questions you have.
Man,
I just want to thank you and your staff for doing an awesome job on the budget this year. I'd kind of asked a couple of meetings ago, it'd be nice to try to find a mill levy decrease, and with the valuation going up, that kind of happens. So I want to give you guys kudos. Good job.
I have one question too. You and I talked about earlier, I mentioned at the last meeting, the cemetery. Cemetery is a hot spot for some reason in the last month or two for me. It's just, people have been hammering me about it. They say we pay a tax, cemetery tax. The city does not charge a cemetery tax. Is that correct?
That's correct at this time.
We do not.
I think in the past there was a dedicated.
There was
tax.
a cemetery tax for the northwestern part of the city that went to Hillside Cemetery. State changed that. But at that point, everybody was saying we were being double taxed. So we do not have a cemetery tax.
We do not have a cemetery tax. I checked in front of this just to double check, because again, I've been hearing a lot of talk about this as well. This is a good example of something that we're going to be doing differently next year because, for instance, when we sell a cemetery plot for $400 for our resident, that's going to probably next year look into those department. Not sure if anything else. So again, those are the kind of things that we're going to start showing that. But yeah, at this time, we do not have a dedicated revenue source for.
Also, my next question is, Brent mentioned getting a master plan for the cemetery. If that comes up in this year's budget, we just come out of the general fund, charge for that.
I know he's got a game plan for later this year.
Yeah.
And if it's going to fall into this year, it's going to be the 2025 budget, which I did not actually prepare, but we're trending nicely on revenues this year, so aware of that. Most likely, yes.
Okay, because I was surprised we didn't have a master plan for the cemetery. I thought that map with the plots and everything was part of the master plan, but it's just the plots. So
One thing that I can tell you, everybody in City Hall agrees with you that the cemetery needs more attention. I think we're just going to bring some consultants in and get a game. A lot of interesting things. Maybe a funding plan for it. From an ad valorem tax of a very small percent to we just carve out, just like we just did for Kyle's budget, 20,000. Perhaps we kind of carve out some number, whatever it might be, for the cemetery ongoing to help build that back up. Right now, it's not at the quality of other Valley Center amenities.
yeah, thank you. No, I have
Questions?
questions. Thank you. Okay. We have to accept this or do anything with this? It's just info tonight? Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda.
Take a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Moving on to staff reports. Kyle.
Good evening again. My only report for my department is we have Main Street Farmers Market on tomorrow, Thursday, tomorrow. It's not only tomorrow on council night. So tomorrow from 4 to 7:30. And it will be on Ash Street again. The lot is very wet. So we're moving it over onto the street. We have, I think, 15 or 16 vendors signed up. So it'll be a good time. Please come out. And then I'll ask if you have any questions from me. Neil gave me his report as well.
Questions? Thank you, Kyle.
And then for Neil, he just said that he just wanted you to be aware that the sign is in the roundabout at 69th Street, and the landscaping is almost complete. So the ribbon cutting is next week, but he said the landscaping's probably 90% complete at this point for the roundabout. So if you've been down that way, it's looking a lot different.
Drove down there today. It was nice to not see cones. And that sign looks amazing. Be good to get this open next week, I hope. Thank you. We got next. Neil's right here. Boyd.
I already mentioned, and you all know Neil and Rodney's not here. I just wanted to mention for their kudos for their groups, their employees. Everybody knows how bad the storm was, and we've had a couple in the last few weeks. So they spent yesterday, I think a lot of yesterday was trying to open up streets and get big limbs and trees out of streets. Today they've been focusing in more on helping citizens out, and the stuff that's been placed at the curb. In fact, the guys were out working until 8 o'clock tonight. Tomorrow, as you all know, is a city observed holiday. The crews will still be out tomorrow in quadrant 2, picking up limbs and debris. So I just wanted to mention that. And since Brent's not here, a reminder, but you already said that the ribbon cutting next week. I'm sure if he was here, he'd want to remind everyone of the ribbon cutting next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Nothing for my group.
Thank you. Barry. Clint? Yeah, Clint. Excuse me. Christie?
I think Boyd neglected to tell about his police officer's graduation. You want to make an announcement about that? Give kudos.
It wasn't a staff report. We did, yes, kudos to Officer Cortland Nero. He graduated last Friday from Kansas Law Enforcement Training Center. I just found out today there was a bit of a snafu. He actually he had logged. They have a they record their progress and running or push-ups, sit-ups, and they usually recognize. And he was recognized for being in the 200-plus mile club. But there was a miscalculation apparently, and he had the most out of his entire class. He logged over 600 miles of exercise during that 14-week period. So kudos to him. I will bring him. I still need to bring Officer Rainwater in as well. When they're working evenings, I'll make sure I'm bringing them in. Hopefully when the whole council is here and be able to introduce them.
Thank you.
I really don't have anything else at this point. Doing great. I'm working with our staff to make sure that they're following the wellness program guidelines, taking advantage of the rec center memberships, trying to keep our employees healthy, hardworking. They are. They're great. And kudos to them.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to governing body reports. I just have one comment to make about the trees. We are busy. Those guys are working, and I appreciate everything they're doing. Just for the citizens' sakes, we're not making a one pass through. But we won't drag it out for months. It'll be 4 or 5 days maybe. So if you got tree limbs, get them out to the curb. 4 feet, 4 inches. We don't want our employees hurt. So, but those guys are working. They're moving trees. I was out driving around today. We got a lot of tree limbs. We got a lot of damage. So I appreciate those guys, and that's all I have. We got next. Ron.
Yeah, basically, I did the same thing only yesterday. I drove around Steve in the district one, and there was a lot of people already out there. I told them about the lots being open and they could take their trees down there, and so they have, of course, just pick it up. The other thing I'd like to thank other than that, that's about all I got.
Amy?
Y'all already stole my thunder. I was going to thank the city workers too. I saw lots and lots of crews out there, and it was nice to see. And I really am appreciative that we're going to pick up all the limbs for a short period of time.
Gina?
Nothing additional, but I do appreciate all the hard work.
Ditto on what's been said already, and I make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Meeting adjourned. I should say anybody else.